So the way tonight will run is I have a slide deck presentation for you. It's going to kind of help keep me on track. I'm going to give you some information about the RICA, probably some things that you didn't know. That's going to save you time. It's going to save you energy and heartache and money in the long run because you won't have to worry about this for the entire summer. That is the goal. So I'm going to take just a moment and share my screen with you. Let me get my Okay, you guys, well, you are here to learn how to simplify your RICA journey, and I don't blame you because it is a daunting task, that is for sure. I created RICA Prep 101 several years ago, actually, and started hosting workshops out of my classroom when I was teaching reading intervention. COVID gave me an opportunity to bring the whole thing online, and that's what you see here is a revision of that. And the mission of RICA Prep 101 is really to make sure that you have a step-by-step approach on how to pass this exam and not be overwhelmed in the process, and actually to become a really good reading teacher while you're doing it. Because the RICA is going to come and go, as you know, but you will be a reading teacher for life. And so that's what I want you to keep in mind through that. My name is Emily Muccianti. I am a reading specialist. I am an interventionist and I've been in the field for over 30 years. And I lived and breathed RICA content my entire career. This is what I did. This is how I served students in intervention. I was also a middle school and high school English teacher for several years while I was working in intervention as well. So it has been a very long and joyous career. It wasn't easy, as you guys know, getting in, because back when I was starting back in the early 90s, it was other hoops that we had to jump through. So I understand your frustration, but we're going to talk about why this one is so important. And this all started because one of my son's teachers about 8 years ago reached out to me. I was the reading specialist in our district, and she said, Emily, I can't pass this exam, this RICA. And I said, what's the RICA? I had no idea. And she shared with me the content specifications and what it was all about. And I said, oh yeah, no problem. We can work on this. Come on over. And so I started tutoring her at home after school. We got her to pass. And what I learned in that process is that at that time, there was very little out there for teachers to actually lean into that was going to give you a really good approach to this exam while making it all really digestible and make sense. Everyone was trying to read a book. There's no pictures in the books. There's nothing to show you. And that was kind of my goal, was to make all of this visible and easily understandable. So you are in the right place if you have never taken this exam before and you just don't know where to start, or if you've taken it but you haven't found a pass yet and you're still struggling with it. And especially if you are a special ed teacher, and Keith, thanks for letting me know that. Our special ed teachers are at an extreme disadvantage, and we'll talk about that. I will say this, it is not your fault. The SPED programs out there don't do nearly enough to prepare you how to teach kids to read. And that's just a cold, hard fact. And it's very unfortunate. They teach you a lot of other things, but not this very important content. So a couple of things just right off of the bat, because there's, there are all kinds of rumors swirling and people get their dates mixed up. And I want you to know what's happening here. The RICA in its current format is set to retire as of July 1, 2025. So we have a full year and a few weeks left. That is a result of something called AB 488, which is rolling the RICA content into the LTPA, which is in pilot right now, which is kind of a language or a literacy version of the Cal TPA. That is what we currently know. The testing waivers, though, there is an important date that you need to make note of and take care of this as soon as possible. The testing fee waivers that allow you to take the exam for free are going away at the end of this month. You have until June 30th to get yourself registered for the RICA for free. You also have until June 30th to register for any of your other exams for free. And I believe that you can register for up to 5 exams at a time. I would strongly recommend that you register for each subtest individually. You do not need to pick a date, but you just need to get that registration in before June 30th, and then you have a full year before you have to actually take the test. So get yourself on the list, registered, no date, and eat up those 5 spots if you have other exams to take so that you are not having to pull that money out of your pocket. Also, something that you may not be aware of is that there are accommodations for test takers under certain circumstances that could allow you to have extended time, time and a half actually, for each of the subtests. And I've had several members take advantage of this. There is the process to go through this is fairly simple. It is a quick little application for free. You have to upload some sort of documentation that you'll learn about on the website, which I'm going to give you a link for this so that you know where to go. And you should hear back in, I would say, 3 days to 3 weeks is a common wait time before you actually hear a result. And if you get that accommodation, then you will have, instead of, what is it, 75 minutes, you'll have an additional 35 minutes on top of that, which will help to reduce some of that anxiety. So make a copy of that link that I just dropped in the chat. In fact, there's going to be other links that I'm going to be dropping in. So you may want to open up a Google Doc so that you can save those and go back to them at a later time. I will say one last thing about the accommodations is some of the ones that I know have qualified are if English is not your primary language, if you struggle with any kind of a medical issue, such as I've had people that have had a stroke in the past, diabetes, anxiety, attention deficit disorder, or if you yourself have a learning disability such as dyslexia. Those things can qualify you. So I would strongly urge you to look into that if that sounds like something that you may be able to have added. I think it's something that is a huge benefit and will really increase your chances of passing right off. Now, I do want to talk to you about evaluating if you consider yourself to be an advantaged test taker or a disadvantaged test taker. And I tell you this because I think it's important that you know what you're up against. The RICA has a pretty low first-time pass rate. It's around the 68% mark. Which is not great. That means that, 2/3 of you are going to be taking this more than once. And some of you may find yourself more advantaged as you prepare, and some might find yourself more disadvantaged. So some things that could give you an added advantage are if you are a liberal studies major, you started your undergrad knowing you were going to be a teacher and you've gone all the way through the program. And so a lot of the content has been woven into your programs. If you are elementary trained, you are either an intern right now, you have served time in your children's classrooms as a parent volunteer, but you're exposed to that content at the elementary school, then you will have a slight advantage. Those of you that may find yourself at a disadvantage, number one, are special ed teachers. Our special education teachers, not your fault. Those programs put a lot of things in your coursework and just not enough when it comes to teaching kids to read, especially if you are a secondary SPED teacher. If you're working in middle and high school, a lot of this is going to feel very, very foreign. If English is not your primary language, you will find yourself at a disadvantage, mostly because of the time it takes to process that information, translate it. There's a time lag there, and because the test is timed, that could put you at a disadvantage. If you struggle with test anxiety, This is, one of those things that could set your anxiety through the roof. And if you have a lot of those advantage things, but you're finding yourself more working in the third, fourth grade on up, you have a slight disadvantage. And that's because a lot of the content does come from that early primary education. So before we move on, what I'd like you to do is drop in the chat, where do you see yourself here? Would you consider yourself advantaged or disadvantaged, or a little bit of both? And while you're doing that, I will say this, even if you find yourself on the advantage side, which is great because that can reduce a little bit of stress, you still have to study. This test is not something you can just go into and pass right off of the bat. So please know that this is not an indication of whether you have to study or not. You all have to study, but if you find yourself more at that disadvantage side, you're going to really need to give yourself some added time in order to be adequately prepared. All right. Got a lot of you guys in the both comment. So you may be taking this test and preparing, and you might be, if you've been working on this on your own or in another way and you haven't found success, you might be doing something wrong. So I'm going to tell you, and I'm just I'm going to tell it like it is kind of girl. And if you are going into the RICA and you're doing just two main things, you're just memorizing terms and you're just taking practice exams. If that is what's taking up the bulk of your studying, is just memorizing terms and those practice questions, that is not going to get you the pass. And that's because you just can't take enough practice questions in order to compensate for what may show up on the exam. And memorizing terms, I will say this, knowing your terminology and taking practice tests are important, but they cannot be the be-all end-all of your preparation. And then the other thing that is really going to put you out is if you're just trying to find out what's on the test from your friends. This is not a good approach. It's borderline unethical. And it's really about if you're trying to find a shortcut around it, you just can't do it. So trust me on this. It's okay to say, hey, is there a lot of vocabulary questions? Do I need to know about phonics? That sort of thing. I totally get it. But getting specifics about things, you're relying on the recollections of somebody in a very stressful situation, and what you may get from them may or may not be correct. And so if you are like me, I trust myself most of all. So I would lean into you trusting yourself most of all on that. So what we're going to do is look at the content of the RICA. If there are several of you here who have never taken it before, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about how this exam is broken down. So there are 5 domains that are broken into these 3 subtests. And under each domain, there are several competencies that you have to know. And we're going to jump into each of these a little more specifically. So domain 1 is all about planning, organizing, and managing reading instruction based on ongoing assessment. And there are 2 competencies that you are responsible for. One is exactly that, planning, organizing, and managing the instruction. And then the second competency is goes deeply into reading assessment, the different types of assessment. Formal and informal, summative and diagnostic, progress monitoring, you name it, we go into it. So it gets a little bit deep here. Domain 1 is a part of subtest 3. Now, I always recommend that when you're preparing for the test, you actually prepare for it in subtest order, which means you're going to save domain 1 to the end. So domain 1 is part of subtest 3. You're actually going to start your preparations, if you follow my recommendation, with domain 2. So domain 2 is the deepest, heaviest domain there is. Make a note of this. It is the vast majority of subtest 1. In fact, you cannot pass subtest 1 without a firm command of domain 2. It has the most competencies, and it also takes us through a student's reading development from pre-K with phonemic awareness all the way into structural analysis, syllabic analysis, dealing with polysyllabic words when we're talking about kids in middle school. So there's a great deal of growth that's happening there. And so you have to know all of those different phases and stages. So competency 3 is about the phonological and phonemic awareness, then moves into concepts of print, letter recognition, and the alphabetic principle. We take it into phonics and sight words and what that means, what the terminology and the concepts are, and then how do we teach it? How do we assess for it? And then finally into that syllabic analysis, structural analysis, and orthographic knowledge. And so you can see there's a lot there. In fact, our subtest 1 workshop, it's 6 hours long, and 4 of those hours are just dedicated to domain 2. So it is heavy, heavy, heavy. Keep that in mind. But this is definitely where you have to start building your foundation, is with subtest 1 in domain 2. The second part of subtest 1 is domain 3, and we are looking at fluency, particularly oral reading fluency. And you're looking at the roles, the role that it plays in reading development, what factors affect it, and then again, how do you instruct for it? How do you assess for it? There are only, I believe, 8 questions related to fluency on subtest 1. So you can see that subtest 1 is very, very heavy to the word analysis domain 2. But again, if you follow my recommendations, this is where you would start preparing, is with domains 2 and 3. Domain 4 is part of subtest 2, and this is where we get into vocabulary, academic language, and background knowledge. And make a note, please, that a lot of your questions here are going to relate to English learners. And that's because there's a lot of questions. This happens to be one of those areas that's very specific to them, as an added challenge, being that as they're acquiring the language. There are 2 competencies. One is the role that it plays in reading development and what can affect it. And the other is, again, how do we instruct for it and how do we assess for it? That's kind of the running theme on all of these things. We're going to learn about it, and then we're going to learn how we teach it and how we assess for it. Domain 5 is all about reading comprehension, and there are 4 competencies here. Competency 13 is going to just talk about kind of the overall general concepts and factors that affect reading comprehension. But then we go into instruction and assessment throughout the reading process. So what do we do before we read, during our reading, and after we read in order to enhance comprehension? And then competencies 14 and 15 go specifically in the differences between narrative text and expository text. And the way that we teach that and assess for it is different. And so you have to be able to distinguish between those. Any questions so far? Please stop me anytime. All right. So here is that subtest structure. As I mentioned earlier, I strongly, strongly encourage you, take these exams one subtest at a time and prepare for them one subtest at a time. It is far too much. I am of a certain age and do not have the stamina to sit there for 4 hours to take a test any longer. And your brain will be pretty fried by the end of it. And here's the reason why I think that you want to space them out. Really dedicate yourself to focusing in on those particular concepts that you need, understanding how they work together, because when you focus on that, you're going to be far more prepared. But in the event that you don't pass, you have to wait 45 days. And so if you take all 3 exams at once, And let's say you were planning to pass this summer. You take all three, but maybe you knock one off the list, but maybe not another one. You are now back into when school's starting again. And we don't want you to do that. So trust me on this. Set your dates. I'm going to give you a calendar. If you decide to join me in the course or with workshops, I always recommend spacing it right after a workshop because you'll be nice and really well prepared to go in. So the structure is, you'll see that we have my tool out. Subtest 1, domain 2 is there are 27 questions about that word analysis. Domain 3, there's only 8 about fluency. And then there are also 2 constructed responses. So a medium-sized constructed response for domain 2, and a short constructed response for the fluency. And you are given 75 minutes. Unless, of course, you apply for that alternative testing arrangements and you get an extra 35, which is awesome because you'll get an extra 35 for subtest 1 and 2, and you'll get 45 minutes extra for subtest 3. Domain 2, you have these questions are subtest 2. The questions are pretty evenly split between the domains. You've got 19 multiple choice questions for domain 4, 16 for domain 5, and again, you have a short constructed response and a mid-sized constructed response. Subtest 3, we go back to domain 1. Now, why is this important? Domain 1 is about planning, organizing, and managing reading instruction and assessment. And those questions related to domain 1 could cover anything in any of these other domains. And if you don't have a firm foundation here, you're going to struggle in that. So again, prepare here, get ready for this one, take this test. While you're waiting for your results, you start preparing for 2. Get ready to take your test. By time you take subtest 2, you're going to get your results back for 1. If you pass, awesome. You go over to 3 and you do the same thing. If you don't pass, after you're done testing with 2, you go back to 1. Okay, because we have to use that window of time because, again, of that 45 minutes. Now, I will say this, the case study is also something that can be, it can feel very daunting, but I want you to know the case study and all of the constructor responses only count for 20% of your score. The multiple choice counts for 80%. So the multiple choice is where you have to spend your time and energy. And again, you don't prepare for the multiple choice just by taking a bunch of practice questions. You have to learn the content. You have to learn how to speak RICA. You have to learn how kids learn to read and be able to weave all of these things together in order to do well on the multiple choice. So the case study, 20%. All of these constructed responses also only 20%. But the case study, you're actually analyzing a series of data. You might get 8 to 10 pieces of assessment data that you are going to analyze, look for trends, look for strengths, look for weaknesses, and have to write up an instructional plan for that particular student. And inside of my course, I lay this out with an outline and sample templates or sample essays and show you how to do it so that it takes the guesswork out of it. So what passes? Well, an individual subtest score of 220 passes. And once you pass one subtest, you don't have to worry about it again. You move on to the others. It will stay there as long as you get this done by that July 1, 2025. That's the deadline to have this finished. The other thing to note is, as I mentioned, 80% of your score comes from the multiple choice, 20% comes from the writing. When you take them all together, you can see this person here took them all together. They passed 2, they did not pass the second one. If you pass, that's all you're going to see is it's going to say pass. And for some people, that's very frustrating. They want to know what their score was. I get it, but you won't know. So I say take your pass, be happy, and you can run with it. If you don't pass, what you're going to get is a not pass with a score that'll tell you how close to 220 you were. You'll also get, and this is if you pass or not, you'll see the performance indices in the bottom, which will give you a series of stars or asterisks that'll tell you this is how complete, I guess, your responses were for that particular area. And what you're shooting for is 4s. 3s are decent. 4s are the best. 2s are limited and show a great deal of room to grow. I will also say right off of the bat, a score under 200 is not close. It's not close. You got a lot of work to do if you're under 200. Once you're over that 210, now you're getting really close. The 200 to 210 is probably some additional regrouping to do. But again, I like for you to know what you're up against. So if you're scoring below 200, you have to really reevaluate your approach. Questions about this?
So Emily, it's conceivable to just do well on the multiple choice questions and not do well on the case studies or the constructive responses and still pass?
Sure is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
is.
and one more question too. Like I passed the subtest 2. I passed that on my first try, but I've taken 1 and 3 like 3 times and I haven't passed it. So and that's all. This is the only thing that I need in order to finish my intern program. And what are the as far as your workshops go? I know
Yep.
when do you offer the subtest 1 workshop and subtest 3 workshop?
Coming right up. I'm going to
Okay.
show you. I'm going to give you a calendar, and congratulations on 2. That's awesome because you're a third of the way done. And so those are accomplishments. I'm happy to hear that. And probably, are you a secondary sped teacher, Keith?
I
Yeah.
am.
So you are more comfortable in subtest 2 dealing because it's more older kid focused. Subtest 1 is where you're going to want to start. Don't take 3 yet. We're going to get you ready for 1 first. Okay.
Okay.
That's what you got to do because 1's going to be very important to passing 3. All right. So let's talk about where you start. So first of all, there are content specifications inside of the RICA that will tell you what you have to study. And if you decide to join me inside of the course, I've already done this for you and basically pulled out those important specifications that will give you the biggest bang for your buck, and that's what we study. There's so much in that content specifications that you just can't know it all, so you have to know what things are going to be heavily weighted, and that's what I did. Also, promise yourself that you are going to read the National Reading Panel Report. I'm going to drop it in the chat right now. The National Reading Panel Report is a very important pivotal document, and it is the reason for the RICA. It brings it all together. It's about 50, 60 pages. It's a free document, but truly it is going to make such a big difference in your knowledge. So add that. Join my course if you are so inclined. Of course, I know I'm biased, but I think I've done a pretty good job. And if you've seen the Facebook or the Google reviews, you've heard from people that have worked with me and with a great deal of success. So I hope you'll consider that, or workshops if you just need 1 particular subtest. There are only 2 additional sources that I recommend. In fact, if you have other books that you're using for the RICA, I would suggest you set them aside because they can cause more problems. They can make you more confused. More information isn't always best, right? You've got to just get good information and focus in on that. So the only 2 that I recommend, and I use them in my study planner as well, is James Zerillo, Ready for RICA. This is a great book. He does a great job explaining things, but there's no pictures. There's no practice test. So it's pretty heavy if you're not a word nerd like me, and like to read about how you teach reading. The second one is the Cliff Notes book for RICA. This is a great book. It does all of the things that Zerillo does, but it does have practice tests and they're actually really good. So if you can only do one resource, I would recommend this one. Okay. And if you've got that red book, there's a red book out there. There's other books out there. Honestly, you guys, I wouldn't spend the time on them. They've got some really poor questions and prompts that I've seen. And so I just don't recommend them. Okay. The other thing I recommend is to attend my workshops. Like I said, our Subtest 1 workshop, these aren't like little hour-long workshops. These are in-depth professional development. And our Subtest 1 workshop is 6 hours long. Our other 2 workshops for Subtest 2 and 3 are 4.5 hours. So you can actually earn a unit by coming into all of our workshops because it's 15 hours of professional development. So I'll tell you more about that. So the course covers everything. I cover all the RICA subtest structures, the reading development, the subtest, all the domains, all the competencies, case study, constructed responses. There are videos of me doing sample deconstruction using the CDC practice test, so you can watch me think aloud multiple choice questions. You can learn what to focus in on, what I'm drawing my attention to, what things are kicking responses out. I also have extracted all of the audio and it is also uploaded as a podcast course. So if you want to listen to it on the go, that is also available to you. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the workshops. Oh, Tara, the edition of the Cliff Notes. So the one I have them both, but honestly, it doesn't matter which edition, whichever one's cheaper. The second edition is aligned to the old CST standards. The third edition is aligned to Common Core. That's really the only difference. So if you have one, I wouldn't update the edition just for that. They're kind of pricey right now because they're out of print. So you're more than likely going to want to look for it used. I just checked Amazon. I saw some Cliff Notes ones on there for about $24, $25, which is pretty good. So grab them if you can. I think that they're very helpful. So workshops. Okay, so the workshops are supplemental live Zoom sessions. They're just like this. I have a slide deck. I'm talking, you're watching, listening, taking notes. You are asking me questions, but it's all about the content. And we start with the exact same content that is in the course because what you have to learn doesn't change, right? It's not like you're getting anything different. You're getting it delivered in a different way. So the asynchronous course where it's self-paced, you can go in, that is, a lot of people, that's all they use. But some people really appreciate, I'm going to schedule it in with a workshop. I'm going to, be there with a group of people, ask questions, and it's a pretty dynamic type of a situation. You can see like the chat will be going and people are supporting each other there. It's very similar to what you see here. And so we also, I embed some of the videos from YouTube that I use to show you different strategies and approaches and content that you have to learn. Because when you're reading Zerillo, there are no pictures. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a real visual learner. Like I want to see it in action. I need to look at it, watch it in order to process it pretty deeply. And so that's the way I built this. This allows for deeper discussion. You have the benefit of connecting with other members who are going through similar experiences. Sometimes spontaneous study groups pop up in there. And those are, yeah, especially for SPED teachers, you are not kidding, Tara, for sure. So the fees for those, it just depends on your membership levels. And I'll show you that. It's coming up in a couple of slides. There are 3 membership levels. One is the platinum member, and that is the most expensive up front. But the platinum members get to attend all of the workshops during their 1-year membership for free. They don't have to pay anything else. It's just one fee and that's it. The other memberships are a smaller yearly fee because maybe they only want to come to one workshop or they may not use the workshops. And so they just pay for workshops additionally when they need them. And then there are some people that only need one subtest left. And they're like, I don't need a full membership. I just need a review before I go in for this one subtest. And so that non-members are welcome to join us, and those are $97. The workshops are never recorded. And that's because the recordings for the digital course are already in there. And if you guys ever do any video, anything, recording, saving, editing takes a lot of time. So the digital course already houses everything. Workshops have to be attended live to get that magic. Also, my web host. So my web host is Kajabi. That's where my course is housed. And Kajabi offers a mobile app. And so you can actually put this on your phone, and it will keep your course progress synced. If you're on your laptop, it's kind of hard to see a slide deck on a phone, but sometimes you might want to review through your phone. And so that is available there. And that's a nice little handy addition. There are also opportunities to earn up to 3 units by preparing with me. The 1 unit I mentioned is for anybody who attends all 3 of the subtest workshops. You can earn 1 unit just by attending that. You write up a little blurb that you read the National Reading Panel report, and then your fee goes to Teachers College of San Joaquin. It does not come to me. That's the fee for the unit and for the transcript for professional development. Now, these are PD units. These are units that help you move up the salary schedule. And so it is up to you to double check with your district prior to doing this that they will honor that. The only district I've ever had trouble with is LAUSD for whatever reason. Most other districts honor them, so you can double check how that works. But they are not graduate course credits, so they don't go to your degree or anything like that. They're just for professional development. And the other 2 units can be earned by a VIP or a platinum member, because you have to complete all of the digital course content, and you have to write and share a case study with me to practice. And so that is available to you as well. All right, so here are the membership costs. There are 3 membership levels, and the basic standard membership is $127. It's a one-time fee. It does not automatically renew. It is access to for 1 year, all the digital content that I've talked about. What you do not get with a standard member is you do not get free workshops. The only one that gets workshops for free is the platinum. Workshops, you do get discounted membership fees, and those are $47 for both the standard member and the VIP member. So, but you get everything else that we talked about. VIP members are very much like the standard member, but the exception is that I will provide feedback on your writing and on your case study. And so that also includes my time to review your writing, and it gives you the option of adding in those 2 units if you choose to do that. But workshops as a VIP are again $47. A platinum member is the all-inclusive. It is everything for 1 year. And this includes as many workshops as you want to attend, includes our boot camps during your membership. You are also not bound by deadlines, because when I send it out to my platinum members, you have to register, but the registration is free, kind of like what you did with Zoom here. And you register, you get the link, and that's how it just kind of rolls that way. So that is available. And because you are here live, anybody who attends live these Newbie Qs, I offer a thank you to you, because it helps me also to make sure that you know how to roll all of this out. And so you have an option of any of these at a discounted 10% if you use the coupon code NewbieQ69. That's for today's date, and that will expire on Wednesday. So if you want to join, I would suggest that you take advantage of the 10% and do it before Wednesday. And when you look at people get asked me all the time, which membership should I use? And it's really, it's a question about what you think you need. If you are just starting, and if you know you want to attend the workshops live, if you know, yeah, I'm going to go to each one of those, the platinum membership is the cheapest option, because it's cheaper than doing any of these others and then adding 3 different workshops. If you are at a disadvantaged side, if you're heavily disadvantaged, I would strongly recommend the platinum if you have all 3 subtests left. The others, though, if you want to, because when you attend a workshop as a non-member, you do not get digital course access. So you don't get the recordings and all of the stuff that goes with that. So let's say, like Keith, I'm going to use you as an example if you don't mind, because I know you have 2 subtests left. So and you're at that disadvantaged side. So I would recommend for somebody in Keith's situation, sped teacher, disadvantaged, right? Has subtest 1 and subtest 3 left. I would recommend going a standard member and then adding the workshop for each of those, because you can review the digital content as much as you want, as often as you want at your own time. And then you can take that workshop before you test. So if you think, though, well, I might want to come to more than one workshop, and a lot of people do, they'll come in, I took a workshop, but then I put my test date off and I want to come back to another one, or I feel like I need a review. If you think you want access to those workshops, go with the platinum, because $47 here and there can kind of start to add up. Okay, so it just really depends on what your situation is. Any questions, though, about these options? If you know that you don't want to come to any workshops, you're like, nah, I know that that's not for me. You just want the digital, then, you could just do the standard. Regina, hi, honey, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question. I'm scheduled to take all 3 RICAs, and I'm going to disenroll and
Good girl.
do like you said, to just take one at a time. But I want to take the workshops, and I want to at least take subtest 1 this month, by the end of the month. But your workshops, I'm going to be on a plane. I'll be able to attend the first day, and then the second day I'll be on the plane coming home. So I won't be able to, I don't know how planes are with, you watching
Yeah, I don't
Zoom
think you can
meetings.
stream. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that. And so I'm not sure when would be the next time that you offer that subtest 1,
Yeah,
because
it's going to be about 2 weeks after the one in June. So I'm going to show you those calendars. I squeeze in 2 boot camps during the summer, because that gives 6 workshops in 2 months when we usually only have 2 workshops in a month. So I try to squeeze them all in. So I'll show you that. Did you guys write that code down? I want to make sure you get that code down. Write it down, because
I
if you
can't see
decide,
it. I
oh,
can't.
Newbie Q, NEWBIE Q69. Just make sure you do it by Wednesday. And I'll show you, there's a little coupon code that you can put in when you register. One other thing to consider if your schools are open to this, we've had more and more districts investing in our members' memberships for them, which is awesome. And I think that they all need to do that, quite honestly. Let me see if I can, oh, I gotta change that. I'm gonna drop in, if you think that you might have somebody in your district that would reimburse you for your membership, make a copy of this email template, revise it to fit your needs, and ask. I always say, doesn't hurt to ask. All they can say is no, right? And it might save you some money. Right now, I will tell you this: schools have their budgets are ending July 1. So if they have money left, they're going to want to spend it before then. So get that out. Again, revise it. It introduces me and what we do in RICA Prep, talks about how it is professional development, which means it can come out of Title II funds if they have them. Okay. All right, so let's look at the calendars, and I will drop these in the chat. For whatever reason, I can't put PDFs while I'm sharing, but I will do that when we're done. So you can see right now, we just had our subtest 3 workshop yesterday, and our boot camp is what's open right now. Now, a boot camp is where we cram all of the subtests in 6 days. I split them in parts. So there's a part 1 and a part 2. We get 6 days, all workshops, and it's intense. That's why it's called a boot camp. It's an intensive training, and we are exhausted by the end of it, or at least I am. I know you guys are too. So we're doing a boot camp in June. They are in the morning. So if you teach summer school, unless you can find a way to work that, but those are our workshop dates coming up. July is then going to be right after the 4th of July. Starting the 8th, we will do the same thing. So we've got the 8th through the 13th is our July boot camp, and then we'll do subtest 1 on the 22nd and 23rd. And then we go back to our normal kind of every other week during the school year on Saturdays. With subtest 1, we do a Friday night, a Saturday morning, because it's 6 hours and none of us can handle that. I run, my voice is done by the end of it. So, and I am traveling. I still attend conferences. I support intervention teachers and coach and consult reading intervention teachers across the country. And so there are things that I do also. And so I'm going to be at a literacy summit in Montana at the end of the month, which it's my 2nd time going. Super fun. Just to show you those boot camps, this is those boot camp dates. You will see these all over the Facebook group. In Facebook, what I would suggest if you want to see these announcements, Facebook is not very good about making sure you get the information I'm putting out. You have to actually go in and turn on your notifications inside the Facebook group. So please do that so that you know. But boot camps you can attend the entire week for a discounted fee if you're a member, or you can do individual subtests. You don't have to do them all. And platinum members can do all of them, one of them, any of them, and it doesn't cost anything. Okay. Yes, let me go back to that for you. There you go, Tara. And I'm going to give you copies of these, you guys. So also, so you know, the calendars are always posted on my website at RICA Prep 101, all the way down at the bottom. I keep those updated. If you're all in the Facebook group, I assume, because if you're not, we're pretty active in there as well. Okay. Okay. So just so you know, I also support the video option of the RICA, but I never recommend it for anybody. I don't think it's never a good first option for the RICA. It's really only an option for somebody who has attempted the RICA and has not passed any subtest after several attempts. If you've passed one, you keep sticking with the RICA because you're already a third of the way done. And we're on our last submission deadline. That's happening this Thursday. And the new course, I have to rewrite this course every fall because they changed the templates. And so that will not be open until September. But again, I do not recommend it unless you spend all summer prepping hard and not getting any passes. Then it might be something to consider if you have your own class. So keep an eye out. It's actually, the class is closed right now for this one. So RICA Prep 101 could be the right choice for you if you think you would benefit from a sequential asynchronous approach to the content that will allow you to study anytime. When I was in grad school, I had 2 toddlers at home with me. And so I was doing all of my work at 4 a.m. You know, you do what you got to do, right? I know how it is. And we didn't have asynchronous back then. If you're a visual learner and you think you would benefit from seeing examples, watching videos, having that interaction with somebody, a reliable mentor that you can reach out to when you need something. I can't tell you how many times I get messages from people in testing center parking lots going, I'm freaking out, and I'm there to talk them off of a cliff. If you want the option of attending live workshops with other test takers, if you like the idea of a podcast, and if you think that those PD units might be beneficial to you, which if you are not all the way over on the salary schedule, it would definitely be helpful. I'm going to drop that in the chat. I have a YouTube video about why this is so important and how to read a salary schedule, because as new teachers, we know you guys don't make much money at the beginning, but the way you move up quicker is to max out your units as quickly as possible. And I want to just say one other thing. We talked about at the beginning how I know this is a challenge, and I know that it feels very daunting, and that is real and that's heavy. But I want you to consider your mindset as you're approaching this exam, and I want you to understand what the reasoning is behind it. I don't think anybody here will disagree that having the ability to read is the single most important thing that you have in order to improve your own future and outcomes. And we have too many kids that are graduating from high school that are illiterate. And we know that so many of our societal woes are attached to illiteracy, poverty, incarceration, crime, health. So many things are attached to illiteracy. And so what that means is teaching kids to read at any age is the single most important thing that you as a new teacher have to do. And you have to do it well, because there is a science to it. It does not just happen. The brain is not developed. The brain is not wired to read. We have to teach kids how to read, and how well you teach it will determine how well they learn it. And we can change and improve their future outcomes when you are a knowledgeable, well-informed, trained teacher. So I want you to embrace that charge as honestly the moral obligation that it is. I think you're all you all went to teaching because you love kids, because you want to help, you want to make a difference. And I'm going to tell you, this is how we do it. We give them the tools so that they can seek out knowledge and really grow. So please, if you've got kind of a chip on your shoulder about the RICA, I'm here to give you a little chin check and tell you, knock it off and embrace it, because this work is hard. It's really hard. It's not easy, and you need to know how to do it. So just remember, the test is not easy. Don't procrastinate. Please don't procrastinate. The more you put it off, the more anxiety you're going to get wrapped up in, and it's a mess. You're going to have to study, and some of you are going to have to study a lot. Make sure that you are focusing on learning the content, not just the terminology and the practice exams. Those are important, but you've got to learn how reading develops and what you can do to accelerate that in kids, and what you can do to fix it if your kid has a problem. If you're a SPED teacher, especially secondary SPED, you might want to find a really great first grade classroom that you could go in and observe, because that's where a lot of reading instruction is happening. Brush up on your writing skills. And if you decide to join me inside of the course, I promise that I will be available to you and help you every step of the way. I always say nobody's been doing the RICA longer than me. So you're in good hands, I promise. And I do have a YouTube channel. There are several things on there related to the RICA and related to reading instruction. As I mentioned, I consult and coach and train reading intervention teachers as well across the country. And so there's a lot of content there related to that you could take a peek at. And if you want to see pictures of my dog and cat, you can follow me on Instagram. I don't do much other than that, except put my fur babies on there. And I know it seems impossible It usually does, as the great words of Nelson Mandela, right? It always seems impossible until it's done. And I promise you that you will get it done. Don't give up. Persevere, go into it with a good attitude, with good resources, good support, and you will get it done. So I want to thank you for being here tonight. I know it's not easy carving that time out. Hope you're enjoying some summertime already. But if you would like to stick around and see what the course looks like, I'm going to take you behind the scenes so that I can walk you through it. If, however, you have received what you came for and you know, you think you can kind of move on, then I just want to thank you for being here and wish you well. My email is readingdiva06@gmail.com, and you are welcome to reach out to me. And I'll take any final questions as well.
I'd like to see what the course is about. And
Awesome.
I didn't see how you sign up for it. I saw the choices that you have, but I still didn't see.
Got it. I'm going to show you. Okay, so let me get this ready. Whoops. Yeah, so the course, you know, I have revised it a couple of times, and honestly, the course is comprehensive. It is meant to be consumed in order. Don't skip anything, like go through it in order. It's very easy to navigate. So let me show you first how you would go to sign up, where you would go, and what that would look like. Okay, so here is this is my website, RICAprep101.com. And here, there's a lot of information here, but the things I want to show you are this little avatar up at the top is where you would sign in once you have become a member. And I'll show you how to do that. But you can scroll through here. All of these have buttons that'll show you where the workshop calendars are, tells you a little bit. I think this was my first day of school when I was in Fresno Central Unified at Liddell. You can see our Google reviews. This is where you would sign up. Okay, so if you come in here, let's say you wanted to be a VIP member, you would just click join now. It is going to take you to the checkout page. This is where you would put that little coupon code and you would put apply and give me that other information. And then it will complete your purchase. You can pay through Google Pay or through a debit card or credit card. And it does not automatically renew. But I will tell you this, you have to check this little box if you want to receive email invitations to workshops. Google's really strict about emails, and I have to have your permission to get into your email box. So if you know that you're going to want that, make sure that you check that box, okay? So then once you are a member, go back up to the top here, you would log in up. Actually, what will happen is you will create a username and a password. Just save this page, RICA Prep 101, and you would log in here. You can see where you would log out. Once you're in, the settings will allow you to change your email address, update any information in there. But to access the course, you would go to your library. But the course there are two for the written exam. This is the main asynchronous course. This is the podcast course. This is the video course that you will not have access to. That's a separate course. So if you go to view product, this will show you kind of the overall outline of each of the modules. So we've got the course introduction, the fundamentals, all of this content, everything related to subtest 1, subtest 2, subtest 3, the wrap up, and some miscellaneous information here. Then when I go in, I literally just click on it, start at the top, and work my way down. So if it's got a little arrow, then there's a video there to watch. You can expand that. There is also what we call show notes that will give you a little additional information down below. Sometimes there are links in here for things that you're going to need, so always pay attention to that. And then if there are any downloadable PDFs, those will be in the right margin. I have worksheets, study planners, templates, and guides. I recommend you print them all out and create a RICA binder so that you have kind of a workbook to go with. So you would work yourself through here. The study planners and guides, this is where I have the a 3-week study planner set up. I use the 2 books that I mentioned are part of my study plan, but I tell you what to do on a Monday, the Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. Not that you have to wait for that day of the week, but I organize this in chunks that are digestible. With summertime being what it is, you might get through 3 of these boxes in a day. But I recommend doing them all. I don't recommend skipping anything. And it will go through for each subtest, each constructed response. And then here's a blank one if you just like everything to be organized and you want to keep some additional notes or create your own planner. So you can print all of those out. When you go to the next category again, it's just going to be navigatable right up here. Things at the top. You can see there will be comments. Also, people put things in. Sometimes they ask questions. So it's kind of like there's a little commentary happening. The next section, this is where we start to get into the actual subtest. And here's the link to the CDC practice exam. I will say this about the CDC practice exam. If you've taken the RICA, you will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. This exam, this practice exam, is far easier than anything you're going to see on the RICA. And if that's the only one you're doing, you're going to get a really false sense of security because the actual RICA is 10 times harder than this. And so when you come into workshops and things, there are other things that I share with you that will give you some additional practice that is a little more challenging because you're going to need that additional challenge. When we get into each of the domains, so here's our domain 2 video. You can see there's some PDFs. We have some worksheets here. These worksheets are aligned to the slide deck, so it'll help you to keep everything in order. You can see all the pages that are involved there. You don't have to use that. I just like it to be nice and organized so that it's structured that way. But the other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is down below. I mentioned that one of the challenges of the RICA when you're studying out of a book is you can't see an example. So what I did is I went to YouTube and I found videos that were really good examples of certain content that is really important for you. For example, here is a video about phonemic awareness. Here is one about concepts of print. Here's one about the language experience approach, which we talk about in the video. So these are added supports that will help you to really understand how this content relates to the classroom. And that goes through all of these. The final thing in the module I want to show you is this is a video of me voiceover with the CDC practice test. And just to give you an idea, I take this test out loud, I think it through, I highlight it and annotate it so you understand. So I'm going to just let you watch for a sec. Hey there, friend. We're going to go ahead and start. Or D, learn how to spell their own name. Again, no letters. So it cannot be any of those 3. Our best answer is B. Recognize that a spoken word is made up of sounds. So let's see how we did. Check our answer. Oop, let me go ahead and clear that for you. See how we did. Yep, option B is correct. Perfect. Okay, so I walk you through the entire CDC practice exam, and I follow that all the way through with all of the modules. So everything is set up the same. The other one I wanted to show you was the case study. So inside of the case study, I think if you've been preparing for that, I think I do a really good job explaining the case studies. I think it's the thing I'm most proud of is the case study. And there are worksheets, there's an outline, there are templates, there are lists of instructional strategies that you can help to use to write your case study. So it is, like I said, it is a fully comprehensive program that will prep you for all of it. Now, I cannot, because it's all in one, because some people say, well, I only need one. Can I just buy subtest one module? No, that's not the way the course is designed. I can't separate it out that way. So, but that is it. And there's a lot. There's a lot there. It's been very helpful for a lot of people, and I hope that maybe it will help you. I wish I could give you a guarantee. I really do. We've had hundreds of teachers pass. And what I will say, you guys know the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? Okay. Well, that's how the course is. I can lead you there. I can give you everything that you need, and how you decide to consume it is going to be the make or break your results. So what I always tell everybody is take that study planner and follow it. Don't skip. Do everything I tell you. If you do everything I tell you, I can help you to a huge extent of increasing your odds. But if you're like, well, I'm not going to do that, I think I'm okay here, I can't make you any promises. So, but I'm also available for questions inside the Facebook group and all that fun stuff. So